Today, the Hydrogen Implementation Conference in Charleston, West Virginia wraps up with major announcements coming from the transportation side of the business. Clean Skies' Lee Patrick Sullivan caught up with folks from General Motors and asked them about their plans for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles.
I'm with Monica Murphy, driver relationship manager over at General Motors. And Monica, GM's been very heavily into the hydrogen fuel cell, but there were some rumors at the beginning of the year that GM was going to back away from the program. Do you want to address those rumors?
Sure, I'm glad you asked about that. And actually, we haven't backed away from the program. We just recently announced over the last month that we are going to and intend to produce our first fuel cell for commercial sale around 2015. And to further that, we're continuing a program that I'm involved in here in the Washington area, which is called Project Driveway. And it is the world's largest market test of fuel cell technology. We have more than 100 vehicles in the markets of Washington, D.C., New York City, and Southern California. And we're letting all different types of drivers test these vehicles for us for about a 2-year time frame. And we're about 17 months into that program right now, and the vehicles are performing beautifully.
Now, General Motors is in their 5th generation fuel cell. What have you learned along the way?
Putting them in the hands of real people, using them in their everyday lives, sheds a little bit of different light about the challenges for hydrogen and infrastructure, and that it's not as easy as just running these things on a proving ground, running them back to a fuel pump and pumping them full of fuel and taking them around the track again. I mean, people have to learn to manage fuel right now with these types of vehicles, but as far as performance, vehicles are performing great.
Now, the Chevy Equinox was an internal combustion car, and you retrofitted it with a hydrogen fuel cell. Any plans to build a car from the ground up?
Right.
With the hydrogen fuel cell?
I'm glad you asked about that. I believe with the announcement that we'll produce something in 2015 that we would be looking at building a vehicle around a hydrogen system that might be a little bit more ideal in terms of range than the current vehicle is. But yes, we have not announced what that actual product will be yet.
Now, at the beginning of the year, President Obama released his budget, and he all but gutted the hydrogen program from the Department of Energy. Stephen Chu says it's not going to be ready for 20 years, so he's not a big fan of it. What did it mean for General Motors to have Congress reinstate those funds and say that we're behind hydrogen?
Well, it's an incredible move, and we're very thrilled about that because we've spent 40 years on this technology, and we want to remain competitive in the marketplace against our foreign competition and domestic competition. So it's very important, and our project of more than 100 vehicles is really one of its kind. So it certainly makes us feel good that that Congress is supporting this movement going forward.
Now, hydrogen, there aren't that, I believe there's 36 hydrogen fueling stations, or is that correct?
Less than 100 across the country, and probably somewhere around 40 or 50 that are public stations.
And also, one of the major components to a hydrogen fuel cell is platinum. You have some pretty big hurdles to overcome before everyone has a hydrogen fuel cell to drive, correct?
Well, and infrastructure is the piece of that we need work on. Obviously, when we bring these out for sale in 2015 or thereabouts, we probably can't sell them across the whole United States. We have to look at the areas that have the fuel right now, which is primarily where we're market testing. So Washington, D.C., New York and California, and then we have, some one-off states like here in West Virginia, where you've just opened the first hydrogen station. We've got South Carolina that has opened a couple of stations this year, so it's coming. But you're right, I mean, it won't be able to be as widespread maybe as it should be or could be.
Okay, Monica Murphy from General Motors, thank you very much. And I actually had the opportunity to drive the Equinox. It runs just like a normal car, except it's a lot quieter.
Exactly.
From the 5th Annual Hydrogen Implementation Conference in Charleston, West Virginia, I'm Lee Patrick Sullivan, and you're watching Clean Skies News.